8:17 and new this morning as we follow tensions in the Middle East. We're going to get some local perspective. First, though, we know protests continue today in Iran as the U.S. is building a military presence in that area. The U.S. and Iran have been talking for weeks regarding that nation's nuclear program. Iran's president says they're not giving in. During a tribute to the country's Paralympics team, the president says Iran will not, quote, bow our heads.
Now, people are still protesting in the streets of Iran, as Jen just mentioned. This is after Tehran suppressed the largest anti-regime rally in years. This morning, we're speaking with our political analyst, Linda Schacht. She used to work for the Jimmy Carter administration. Linda, good morning. Thank you for being here with us. First of all, why would it be so bad if Iran got a nuclear weapon?
Well, it's bad if any other country gets a nuclear weapon. We have had nuclear proliferation around the world, and over the last 40 years, we have attempted to rein in countries that had it with nuclear proliferation treaties. So we don't want Iran, and particularly Israel does not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
Linda, let's talk a little bit about the U.S. involvement here and what role Congress may or may not play in what the U.S. or President Trump decides to do here.
Well, there is something called the War Powers Act, and Ro Khanna and Tom Massey, a Democrat and Republican, have a resolution in the House that they're trying to get a vote on that would invoke the War Powers Act and say the president could not attack Iran unless he had congressional approval. This is particularly a problem for Republicans because this action, that is taking military action in Iran, is massively unpopular with the American people. 3 different polls in the last several weeks have shown that 70 to 85% of the American people are against any kind of military attack on Iran.
Linda, there's been a lot of talk about what a military action against Iran could possibly do. A lot of people have said Iran is likely to strike back, and that could cause an even bigger conflict. Some people would say they would back down, and maybe they would stop some of the trade in the Strait of Hormuz, which, of course, could drive up oil prices here. Can you just talk us through some of the ramifications if an attack of any kind does happen?
Yeah, let's talk first about where we are. On Thursday, the negotiators will meet again. If they do not get an agreement that Iran will give up its nuclear program, then the president said he'll go to a limited military strike. And if that doesn't work, he will do a major strike to force the leaders who are under such pressure from their own people from power. Now, what does that mean? If they aren't pushed from power, and there's no indication right now that they're going to agree to give up their nuclear program, then there are issues that would impact oil prices, but there also is the question of the uprising in their streets. I happen to have been around when there was a different uprising in their streets in the Carter administration when the hostages were taken and the current Islamic leadership came into play. So the question is, are there enough people now that they could topple the leadership from within?
Linda, speaking of oil prices, one thing that's different now versus your time within the Carter administration is social media. And there were people all over social media all weekend long, in panic mode saying, go fill up your gas tank now, do this now before fill in the blank. What's your take on how social media might be playing a role in information distribution and also just general feelings about all this?
Well, the feelings part is the important part, right? And that is the fear that you just indicated, which I think right now is ill-placed. One of the things that social media does is it lets us see what's going on in the streets of Iran because people are smuggling out and getting out video. But it also it generates fear among people, like you just said, who are afraid they need to fill up their gas tank. I think that's very premature.
All right. Linda Schacht, former member of the Carter administration, thank you so much. And of course, President's State of the Union address coming up tomorrow night from Washington. We'll be tuned in with that.